everybody, look, it's the Mimo shirt I was talking about last week. I ordered one and I got mine this week, and a lot of people have been buying these things. They're kind of going like hotcakes, so I really appreciate all of you who have been buying Mimo shirts. And I kind of wonder if you're out and about in public, if people ask you what that means and what you tell them. I don't know. I'd be curious to know, but thank you all who have been buying them. And of course, they're available for sale at the wood shop. Got a quick announcement to make about last week's spice rack project that is for auction for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it's still up for auction, and it will be until Tuesday, so you still have time to bid on that project because I had to relist it. eBay made me take down my original listing after it was there for a few days because I violated their terms of agreement. Yeah, I did it. I just clicked the accept button willy-nilly without even reading the terms of agreement. Whoa, badass there. But there was a South Park episode about nobody reads those, terms of service agreements. But anyways, I didn't know you couldn't have outside links in your auction listing. So I had a link to my website and I had a link to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and eBay took it down. They were like, no, you can't do that, man. You're in violation. So they removed it. So I had to relist it without the links, and so I lost all of the bids. I think there were 12 bids on that spice rack. So if you did bid on it, thank you, and you're gonna have to rebid. I hope you do, because it is, it's for the Make-A-Wish Foundation and everything. But you have until Tuesday to do it now, and you'll be completely compliant with eBay's terms of service. Ooh, badass. Oh, a couple of things about the Mir Mini from this week, the how I finished with lacquer. Let me show you this real quick. This is a couple of questions I had on that I wanted to address. A couple of people reminded me that when you finish something, you should do the underside, the secondary surfaces first, and then if you flip it over before it's completely dry and set it on those sharp nails, if it leaves a little divot or a little mark, it won't matter and it won't show. And so of course that's a good idea. Oh, and I got a couple of emails from people who were questioning my sanding strategy, my unorthodox sanding strategy, from going from an 80 grit sandpaper and then jumping to a 120 and just stopping there. Because I know you're supposed to kind of go through this whole progression, but this is a technique for lacquer. Now, hear me out on this, okay? Because I think it's all a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy by Big Sandpaper. Big Sandpaper. They want you to buy more sandpaper. Lacquer is what's going to give you, when you use lacquer, that's what's giving you your smooth finish. You're not really feeling the wood at all. You're feeling the layers of lacquer. So if you're sanding down to 220, 320 grit sandpaper, it doesn't make any difference. It's not doing anything because all you're feeling is the lacquer on top. It's the lacquer coats that need to be smooth. That's why you want to put that through that final light sanding before you put on your final coat of lacquer. That's what gives it its feel. You would want to sand up probably a better progression of sanding if you were going to apply, say, an oil finish where you feel the wood. It's part of the wood. But think of lacquer as like plastic wrap. If I was to take a sheet of plastic wrap and wrap it around this board, I would only feel if there were big imperfections in the wood, but the actual feel of the wood, I'd be unable to feel. Well, the lacquer is the same way. At least that's my theory, but it's worked for me, and it gives me a nice smooth finish. And so I think if you don't need to sand up to all those grades and grits of sandpaper, why bother, I was at Ohlone College yesterday. There was this weekend-long theater festival my son was participating in his school, the Marin School of the Arts. They won the first place for the musical. They did Hello Dolly. They did this bit from Hello Dolly, which is the if you've ever seen Hello Dolly, there's a thing they call it the Waiter's Gallop, where it's a whole bunch of guys dancing, and they do it, it's like acrobats. I mean, they're doing backflips and jumps, and it's just the most incredible thing. Well, they did that and naturally stole the show, and they took home first place. Not home, they took to school for first place. So congratulations on that. It was pretty cool to see all these schools competing in different theater competitions, all sorts of different categories, different classical monologues and scenes and all sorts of things. It was a fun event. Glad to hear some of the responses for my palette project this past week for the vertical planter. That actually it's another example of one of those projects that just evolved into that as I I actually had a project in mind that I still may get to maybe later on this spring or summer, and it was a project that my wife found at Home Depot. We were down there, and there are these vertical planter boxes, and it's just a box, and it has like hardware cloth over the front of it. You can plant succulents and things in them, but they hang on the wall like a picture. And so I was kind of playing around with the idea of coming up with something like that, although much, much cheaper. And then, as usual, I always recommend using Sketchup, because when you're playing around in Sketchup, it's surprising how an idea can evolve really easily, much more easily than if you were just to try to start building something or even sketching it out. But I started playing around with those vertical planter boxes, and then I don't know, it just sort of I was looking at examples online of other types of vertical planters, and it just led up to anything. And then I came up with the idea of the triangle shape, which would just lean up against the wall. It's not really a corner planter, that's just what I called it because it needed a name, you know, for YouTube and so people could find it. But it was, I just put it in my corner and I thought, wow, that's perfect. Now it's a corner planter, but you can lean that up against the wall. And I like projects that once in a while that don't require a whole bunch of tools and don't require a lot of space, because I get email from people who have very limited spaces or even live in apartments and want to know if they can make any projects. And I think that that's the perfect kind of project, because with just a jigsaw and a drill, you could make that on the patio of your apartment or even the balcony, and with found wood or 2x4s, just anything. And you could use that project in that same space because it takes up such a small amount. So I like doing those once in a while, because as woodworkers, it seems like we tend to always want to spend more on tools, get more and more and more and more and more tools, as many tools as we can. And it really leaves a lot of people in the dust. But I still have a lot of pallet wood left from that last time, if you'll remember, when I filled up my truck with maybe 6 or 7 pallets. Funny how that stuff goes a long way. It really does. Hey, I got a video recommendation this week, and it's from John Heiss, who posted a video on how he cuts dovetails using a hacksaw. And I love the idea. Those are the kind of things that I really like to see, is people who try things that just kind of fly in the face of conventional woodworking wisdom. And conventional wisdom would hold that this is not the proper way to cut dovetails, but he does it and it looks cool. And you know, why not? It's a hacksaw is, you got a thin blade, you've got fine teeth on it, you can get great cuts. I think the video teaches us a good lesson that there are really no right or wrong ways to accomplish a task. If you can get the task accomplished, it doesn't really matter what tools you're using to get to that point. What, other woodworkers are going to laugh at you? I think we're afraid other woodworkers are going to judge us by our tools. That just sounded wrong. But anyways, that's all I got. I'll talk to you guys next, Saturday or Sunday? Sunday or Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, I don't know, whenever. See you then.